What's going on, Internet? Iron Jordan here. So, today I want to bring you back to a post that I made on May 8th, which was about 16 weeks ago, where I said, hey, why are we printing sure to be staple counter cards at SR now? Come on, Bandai, you're better than this. People did not really like this post. You had a couple people that were, agreeing with me. You had a bunch of people that were like, hey, cards should be expensive, staples should be expensive, SRs have never really been expensive in this game, so seeing, a maybe going to be expensive SR is good for the secondary market. Well, unfortunately, I was right. I hate to say I told you so, but Dormant Potential is a $34 card right now. Listen, guys, I'm not saying that your cards can't be expensive. I'm not saying that your cards can't hold value. But what I am saying is that staples, like Dormant Potential Unleashed, like Topo, like Sensu Bean, cards you have to play the color should probably not be expensive. It creates a barrier of entry to new players and to budget players. Budget players need to be able to be competitive too. Somebody's ability to be competitive in a card game should not be predicated based on their income. Now, Son Goku the Awakened Power, that card's a couple $100, $700 right now. Sweet, awesome. I'm really glad that the card is retaining that kind of value. That's really nice. Really good for collectors. Really good for people who got the card when it was cheap. That's awesome. That's incredible. And we're gonna look at the cards from the rest of the SRs from this set. Come up here in a second. But Dorm Potential is different. It is a staple counterattack card. It is a must have four of in any green deck in the meta right now. There's so much aggro running rampant right now between Pilaf, Teen Gohan, Vegeta, stuff like that, that you have to have this card. It just turns off your opponent's turn is kind of a necessary evil, unfortunately, with where the game's at. And printing this card at SR made it less available, which means it's harder to get, which means that the demand for it is not going to meet the supply. The supply is going to be lower than the demand, and so the price is going to go up. Economics 101, stuff like that, right? So I want to give you an example. Remember when Bean, people were talking about Bean being, reprinted? Because Bean was getting up to like $8, $9, $10 a piece. People were like, oh, maybe, staple commons that you have to play blue, because you have to have Bean to play blue, really, maybe it shouldn't be $10 a piece. And people were like, oh, it smells like broken here. It was mostly Yu-Gi-Oh players, because Yu-Gi-Oh players are used to Konami treating them bad, and so they have Stockholm syndrome, and they, defend it in other card games. But I digress. Bean needed to have a reprint. Now it's down to $3 a piece, and that's awesome because it's a much more accessible card as a staple. Dormant Potential should be the same. I'm not saying that the card needs to be like $2, $1, 50 cents, whatever. But if this card was printed at rare, it would have been $5 or $10 a piece instead of $34 a piece. That is far more acceptable when it comes to getting a new player into the game than saying, hey man, you need a playset of a $34 card. You need to spend over $120 on a single playset of a single piece of cardboard before you even think about playing green in our card game. And that's all this boils down to, really, is that cards that are necessary, cards that are needed, cards that are staples, that you have to play the color, should not be $34. Moving on, we're going to take a look at the rest of the set. So this is all of the SRs in the set. I have them sorted from market high price to low. And when you look at the rest of the set, it's holding a really healthy value. Mecha Kabura is $20. Super Saiyan Trunks God-Sealing Technique is $15. Bulma Bunny Girl is almost $12. Release from Evil is $9. Frieza Charismatic Villain is $12.5. Rival Seeker is $8. So when you look at all this stuff, this set actually holds value better than most sets historically in Dragon Ball Super's past, with the exception of draft boxes. Draft boxes always hold high value because draft boxes are short print. They're a limited print run. The product is. The ratios are usually worse than a normal set. And on top of that, you have to pay more to get a box. You can't just buy loose packs. It's not like you can just walk into your local Target or local game store and just buy 3 packs of the new draft box. You have to buy an entire box when you buy a box of draft box cards. So setting draft boxes aside, they're an entirely different problem, which I talked about in my video where I talked about Bandai needing to make master sets. Other than that, this set holds good value. Very, very often Dragon Ball Super, a month after a set is out, the SRs will start to plummet in value. We have not really had that happen. But when you look at these cards, Mecha Kabura is a really good card, but you don't have to have it to play yellow. I have a bunch of yellow decks, and I don't play a single copy of this card. It's a good card, but none of the decks that I play it want to have it. Same thing for Super Saiyan Trunks God Sealing Technique. Now, if you play blue and you play Unisons, you should probably play this card, but it's not a necessity. You don't have to have it to play the color. However, Dormant Potential is good without Unisons. It's good by itself. Are you playing a green leader? It has to be a mono green leader, I believe. Are you playing a mono green leader? Awesome. Then you have to. Why are you not playing Dormant? It's just a good card. So that's my argument for this. Is that, hey, if you're playing green, you have to have Dormant. If you're playing any other color, you don't have to have all these other SRs. And so while they're holding value, and that's great, and that's fantastic, Dormant shouldn't be as expensive as it is. It should have been an uncommon, it should have been a rare, and that would have made it much more acceptable. Now I'm going to touch on the final thing before I leave you guys today, which is we're going to use Magic as an example. Now, DPS and Magic are different games, and people, always roll their eyes pretty hard whenever I bring up Magic. But it is really important to use the mistakes of other card games, use the sins of your fathers, to prevent making the mistakes of those games. Learn from the past, don't repeat it. So, Magic has a problem with fetch lands. If you watch any relevant YouTuber that is big in the community, if you watch Tolarian Community College, if you watch Pleasant Kenobi, Spice 8 Rack, if you watch the good Magic YouTubers, they will tell you that fetch lands need to be reprinted because it creates a barrier of entry to what they call eternal formats. Now, Dragon Ball is a little different because we only have one format. In Magic, if Standard gets bad, you can go play Commander. If Modern gets bad, you can go play Legacy. I don't know why you would. It's really expensive, but you could do that. If you don't like one format, but you love the game, you can go play another format. Dragon Ball does not have that luxury. So I don't play Modern. Why do I not play Modern? Because you have to have fetch lands. Scalding Tarn is over $50 a piece for its cheapest printing, and you have to have 4 of it to be competitive in Modern if you're playing most decks that require blue or red, right? And this is the most expensive fetch land at the moment. I believe the Simic one, the blue-green one, is also really expensive. But you have to have these cards to have a fighting chance in Modern. Now, there's some decks that don't play them, but what if you don't want to play that deck, And on top of that, Modern's incredibly expensive by itself. It creates a barrier of entry, and it's why Modern is really losing a lot of its players, and it's why Modern is not in a great place, and it hasn't been in years, because Wizards just kind of refuses to help the health of their own formats because of greed. Essentially, they're going to put these in a premium product down the road, and people are not going to be able to afford it, and people aren't going to buy it. It's not going to help the price of these things any, and it's going to keep players out of their eternal formats. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because Dragon Ball does not have that. Dragon Ball does not have that luxury. Dragon Ball has one format. We have one format, and if this card never gets reprinted ever, and our one format continues as it does, and this card never gets banned, never gets reprinted or anything, it's going to continue to go up in price because it is a staple in green. This card is going to end up being like the Monkey Ape, or the Monkey Ape, the Son Goku Ape. This is going to end up being like Rebrand. This is going to end up being like Draftbox cards at the end of, let's say 2 years down the road and this thing never gets reprinted. What are you going to do? If you want to play green, it just sucks to be you, I guess. And that's my issue. We cannot repeat the sins of other card games simply because we aren't paying attention to them. We know better than to do that. Bandai knows better than to do that. This card needs a reprint ASAP. Yeah, it just got printed, but it needs a reprint ASAP. And that's all that is. And I would caution Bandai to maybe in the future try to avoid printing things that are going to be generically powerful, that are going to be generically playable, and staples, of the format at SR. I don't think, save the SR slot for things that are in the archetype. All of these counterplay SRs that go with Unisons, great. All of the Unisons being SRs is great. You don't have to run those cards. All of these other cards are either archetypal cards or they're cards that you don't have to run. And we have the same thing coming up in the new set as well. That's basically all I really have to say about this. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe if you want to. I'll be putting out more videos as time goes on. Leave a comment if you'd like. We'll have a discussion on the subject in the comments. I always try to respond to comments when I can. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.